Understand your ignorance and keep yourself free from egotism. Do only that which is virtuous. Develop trust in your true nature. That is the path of Buddha.
Through this ceremony, the little monk becomes a bande. His teacher is at his side. The Geshe, a Buddhist scholar, will see to the boy's further education until he becomes a lama in about 15 years. Ladakh, mountains in the Western Himalayas. Ladakh, a country larger than Scotland, but with only 100,000 inhabitants, lies 15,000 feet above sea level. It borders on China, Pakistan, and Tibet. Even though politically and militarily it belongs to the largely Muslim Indian state of Kashmir, the culture of Ladakh has always been Tibetan. It is the middle of August and very hot and dry. At this elevation it almost never rains, and only where streams from the glacier can irrigate the land is there any vegetation. The rest is desert. The river oasis of Temesgam has existed for thousands of years. About 800 people live there. They are Tibetan Buddhists, and their spiritual leader is the Dalai Lama. The Geshe sets off for the village. The Straga family have asked him to conduct the harvest ceremony in the little temple in their house. This blessing is in reverence for any creatures his shoes might crush. The title Geshe literally means spiritual friend and is granted as recognition for high academic achievement in philosophy and metaphysics. The Geshe has completed studies in 5 subjects and would be comparable to a university professor. But Buddhist study is not solely oriented towards scholarship. It also includes an inner development towards wisdom and enlightenment. The mantras which the Geshe recites are his tools for helping all sentient beings. They are much more than mere prayers. Through their form and sound, they bring the contents of the ancient texts to life and give them power. This farmer is telling the Geshe that his cow is healthy and eating well again. Buddhists make a fundamental distinction between wisdom and skillful means. Wisdom is represented by the bell and symbolizes the female principle. In his right hand, skillful means are symbolized by the Vajra or thunderbolt, which also embodies the male principle. The means themselves are unselfish action and compassion for all creatures in order to free them from their suffering. Wisdom is an insight into the illusion of our existence through the experience of emptiness. To find that our dignity, our self-importance, and even the ego are illusions leads to a liberation from the frustrations of being attached to the transient. This opens the way for a deeper understanding of life. Buddhism means to be filled with such wisdom and act selflessly.
You can begin with the harvest, Straga. It bodes well for you. Offer the first bushel of barley to the Lord of Compassion, and you will be satisfied.
At harvest time, none of the families work alone. All the friends and relatives help. The barley is harvested by hand without the use of any tools. But Wanchuk of the Fargo family is not just helping the Stragas unselfishly. He's also very interested in their daughter Choron. In order to get to know her better, he would have to officially ask her father for her hand. But he doesn't think the moment is quite right for that yet.
We have 5 children, 3 sons and 2 daughters. Choron is my youngest. The oldest girl married someone in the next valley. Only Choron is still unmarried. For the sons, we picked out the wives ourselves. Navang, our oldest, got the neighbor's girl. We've known her since she was a baby, and she has a very good character.
Choosing the right daughter-in-law is very important, because we all live under one roof together. The daughters usually marry into other villages.
Could Choron choose a husband for herself?
Now that she's finished school, she can decide for herself what she wants to do.
The Stragas are singing, "It's not heavy, it's not heavy." Like the other families, the Rigupas are also harvesting now. These are the brothers Sonam and Stopkes Rigupa. This is the wife they share in common. Polyandry, in which 2 or more brothers are married to one wife, can still be found in almost any village in Ladakh. In the inheritance law of Ladakh, the entire family property is inherited solely by the eldest child, no matter whether it is a son or daughter. A younger son has then 3 choices. He can enter one of the numerous monasteries, or try to find a wife who has inherited property. Otherwise, he can do as Stopkes has done, and marry the same wife as his elder brother.
I lost my teeth 3 years ago. Unfortunately, it looks ugly now, but the doctor is so far away, and rather than wear false teeth, I go around like this.
How long have you been married?
My oldest is 12 years old now, so that makes 14 years. When I entered the family, there were the 2 brothers, a sister and the grandfather. At our wedding, Stopkes was just 13, more of a boy than a husband.
Since the harvest, Wangchuk has fallen in love with Choron. In this love song, the beloved is promised the best of everything she will ever need. The softest leather, the finest wool, the sweetest fruits.
When I was young, we always used to sing and get drunk. That was the life. There was always something going on. Now I'm 77 and already standing with one leg in the next world. That's why I need a cane. Only my good leg is still in this world. I have a son and a daughter. His name is Harry Chan, and she's called Sholang Lamo.
How often did you marry?
Only once, but my wife is already dead.
Are you sure that you don't have any other children?
I only have 2 legitimate children, but otherwise, there's probably quite a few in the village.
If those were all his children, well then, he was a good stud.
Do you know your other children?
There were 2 of them I knew, but I don't even have contact with them anymore. It's hard to say just how many there were. In my lifetime I had maybe 18 or 19 girlfriends. Those were the days, but I don't go chasing girls anymore.
I'm 66 years old. I have 3 children. My oldest married at 15, just like I did. A man had to come to live with her. But now her oldest child is a son, and he'll inherit the farm. My oldest boy is in the army. The youngest one became a monk. Of the 3, he's my favorite, and he's the one I live with.
There are no rules dictating who can marry and settle down with whom. There is only the common interest in keeping the size of the population the same. Polyandry and the monastic communities help to achieve this goal, and despite the limited amount of arable land, there is even an agricultural surplus.
My older husband, Sonam, works in the city and spends almost the whole year there. My younger husband, Stopgis, takes care of the farm here with me. He even waters the fields, which is actually woman's work. And when I spent 2 weeks in the city with Sonam, he took care of the housekeeping and the children, all by himself. Sonam, the older one, is responsible for us all. But actually, it's Stopgis who is head of the family, because he tells us what we're supposed to do every day. If we didn't do as he says, he would go away and look for other work, or marry another woman, which a lot of younger brothers are doing these days. But I'm sure he wants to spend his whole life with me. After all, we've made children together. The children don't care if I have 2 husbands or 4 husbands. They're all papa to them. Even when Sonam comes home, he doesn't have any more rights than his brother. If he had more rights, then the younger one wouldn't stay. I feel happiest when the whole family is together. I don't know whether my daughter will have more than 1 husband. It also depends on how much land a man has. According to the new law, younger brothers can inherit part of the farm if they insist on it. But they have so many possibilities in the army or in the city to live away from the land That I think polyandry will probably die out.
Won't the population increase?
There are so few women becoming nuns these days that it's happening already.
Will the people have enough work and food then?
There are all kinds of new jobs in the city. The men can earn money and then buy the food.
Wangchuk has managed to get an invitation to the Stragas for tea. But it isn't doing him much good, because the family refuses to take any notice of his intentions until he makes a serious proposal. And even if her parents weren't there, Choron would still have to pretend she doesn't notice his yearning glances.
Now you look just like an ugly magpie. That will frighten off the demons.
So long as a baby's soul isn't strong enough to defend itself, it is smeared with soot in order to discourage any unwanted attention.
I'm 48 years old. Sometimes I feel I have half my life behind me, and the children have everything in front of them. It's a good thing I also have grown-up children, because that makes things a bit easier. Without our grown-up children, we'd have to work very hard in our old age, and that would be terrible. Just now, for example, there's so much to do preparing for the winter. Harvesting the grain, gathering dung to burn, roasting and grinding the grain. It's a lot of work. Even so, dying young would be awful. The worst thing about dying is being separated from the children. Up to now, I haven't been able to do all the necessary religious duties because I had too much work to do. That could have a bad effect on my reincarnation.
Daily prayer and meditation contribute to a favorable reincarnation. The good things you experience now are the reward for the merits you earned in your previous life. Now you are earning the merits for your next life.
Today, the Geshe is going to his retreat, up on the mountain. Bande will accompany him.
You stay here. You're still too small. Give me the book. Have complete trust in your teacher. Learn from many different teachers. Learn more than I have done. This is my blessing for you.
The Geshe was born here in this valley, and when he himself was a young Bande of 14, he went to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet and the seat of the Dalai Lama's government. At that time, Tibet was still free and a center of Buddhism. He lived and studied in one of the large monasteries there. 16 years ago, when he was 48, the Geshe returned to the valley and has remained here ever since. He needs the isolation in order to be completely undisturbed in his meditations. From October to May, when the temperatures go down to 40 degrees below zero, he never leaves his mountain retreat or covers his arms. Here, he carried out the Losum Chosum meditation, which lasts for 3 years, 3 months, and 3 days. During this time, no one spoke to him or even saw him close up. This severe asceticism is necessary in order to destroy the ego, because our consciousness identifies with the needs of the body, and it is the ego which is behind these bodily needs. It traps consciousness in a fixation on one's own isolated individuality. Asceticism, however, makes it possible for consciousness to free itself from these material chains and thereby liberate the ego, just as in death. This mountain spring seems almost like a gift of God. The few drops it provides are enough for his needs and also make it possible for a few bushes to grow on the slope. They in turn provide the fuel for preparing the tsampa, or cooked grain, which the Geshe eats each day. One of the Lama's customs is to give hungry spirits a small part of the food they eat. It is mixed with elderberry powder and then burned, so that the aroma will attract the spirits. The Geshe eats only once a day. His basic daily food is tsampa, and today he's varying it with a chili sauce. In winter, he eats it with dried apricots.
The
Geshe had to flee from Tibet just like the Dalai Lama. He even had to leave his teacup behind. All he had with him on his journey of 1,200 miles was some tsampa. When he'd mixed his last tsampa with water in the hollow of a stone, he fell into a deep sleep. He lacked the strength to go on and was certain he would die. But the next morning he discovered that he had already crossed over the border to Ladakh. The first people he met gave him something to eat and drink, and that was how he returned home. Praise be to the Karma that saved him for us.
I'm responsible for the entire village here, the animals, the plants and the people. I pray for the peace and health of all living creatures. I pray for enough water and good harvests. I've been praying for these things for many years now, so we haven't had any problems. The people respect me and want me to stay here forever. They bring me tsampa and other food without my having to ask them. Since these things are given out of religious belief, I accept them. I take what I need for myself and sell the rest in order to support other monasteries and build stupas. I live a purely religious life, eating no meat, no onions and no garlic. I have taken the path of the Buddha.
He says it wouldn't be difficult for him to perform magic, but that as a religious man, he would never do it. If he wanted to, he could fly from his cell over to the monastery, but that would be a misuse of his powers.
Before the Geshe came, unsuccessful attempts were made to build a monastery, but demons always made the walls collapse and the workers fall ill.
From my cell, I looked over again and again to where the monastery was to be, and then one day I felt I had the energy to build it. I slept here on this spot and heard some very strange noises. I thought to myself, those must be the demons, but I wasn't afraid. The Dalai Lama also asked me whether I'd seen them, but they never revealed themselves to me, and so I was able to build the monastery without any problems. Since then, there haven't been any demons here. Now I live here in the summer and up in my cell in the winter.
In Ladakh, the head of a mountain goat surrounded by an unbroken woven design protects the house from evil spirits. The mountain goat was considered an important protective power even in pre-Buddhist times. When hung up inside the house, it helps to ensure peace in the family. And the prayer flags one sees fluttering everywhere also bring peace. The wind carries their message and spreads it over the entire country.
I only return home for 4 to 6 weeks every year. Together we have 5 children with our wife. 3 are from me and 2 from him. Why don't you say something too?
True, he comes home when he's on holiday, but I'm always here and do the work all alone. That's pretty hard sometimes. Of course, I'm happy that he brings us rice, clothes and kerosene. In return, I send him tsampa, milk and things from the village. He earns money and I work. That's how we take care of our family.
You say something too now.
Tell them that you have 5 children and that you sew and cook for them.
When one of them puts his shoes outside their wife's door, the other isn't allowed to disturb them. Do you have priority with your wife when you're home on holiday?
No, then neither of us shares her room.
Do you envy Stopgas because he can be with her the whole year?
No, I'm happy that he's here. That way, I don't have to worry about her.
The Geshe has just put the oracle of Temiscam into a trance. A great North Tibetan Lama who lived 150 years ago speaks through him. Without ever having learned this old Tibetan dialect, he can speak it when in a trance. The Stragas, Stopgas and others have come to ask him questions.
Why has my mother been suffering for 2 years?
Because houses were built nearby without consulting lamas or astrologers.
When the monks had to flee from Tibet, the souls of the dead also fled. One of these souls is speaking through this oracle. What he says is the truth.
Since the Geshe built the monastery, things have gone well for you. You should be grateful to him.
Speak slowly, step by step. What do you think of the people making this film?
I think they don't believe in our religion. But if they show us respect, the results will be good. The foreigners only want to observe our religion without understanding it. They laugh at us. They come here as tourists without any belief or trust. They're against us.
Give him some black tea and he'll answer a few more questions.
You have to follow what the Dalai Lama says. You should be grateful that you have him.
Why am I always fighting with my brother?
You bastard! You're the one who always starts it with your bossiness and impatience.
The oracle has come out of his trance. For the first time, he hears his own voice speaking in a trance.
What he said to me wasn't true.
I bet there's something to it.
Why did you call him a bastard?
I have no idea. When I've been in a trance, I don't know anything, I don't feel myself. Afterwards I'm tired for 2 or 3 days, that's all.
A new threshing floor is made each year, so that not a single square inch of arable land is wasted. When things aren't as harmonious as they should be in the Rigupa family, then the grandfather has the task of mediating and making peace. In Ladakh, mediating between two parties and bringing them together again enjoys enormous prestige and great respect. This may well be the reason for the remarkably loving way that people treat each other, as well as the absence of any kind of crime. No one in Temesgam has ever heard of a murder. Because of the extreme dryness, the threshing floor is already hard and smooth after only 3 days. The animals tread the grain out of the chaff and reduce the straw to small pieces. The wind carries the chaff away and the grain falls to the ground. In the summer there are a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables in addition to tsampa, but no meat is eaten. Ladakhies slaughter animals only in the winter, when they need more resistance to the cold. This is also the only time when meat can be kept fresh, and when fodder is scarce. Apricots are dried for the winter. Together with the cooked barley, they are all that's needed for a healthy diet. Wanchuk has now decided to ask the Geshe for help. Like many Ladakhis, he has heard of a mantric formula known as the Mokading, which supposedly provides a technique for seducing women without their becoming aware of the manipulation.
Why have you come?
I wanted to ask you something.
What is it?
It's something very urgent.
If it's something proper, then I can give it to you.
It's a book, a mantra.
Ah, what sort of a book?
It's supposed to help me.
Are you sick?
No, I'm fine. Please.
I'd better make a divination. Then we'll know what's the matter with you.
I need the Mokading book.
That I can't give you. That would be a serious mistake.
I wouldn't tell a soul.
It would still be a mistake, and I would get caught in the wheel of life. I would be happy to give you the teachings of Buddha.
Please, just lend it to me for one day. Please.
It would nevertheless be a sacrilege. With me, such a thing is out of the question. Now leave me in peace.
In Ladakh, there is little time for the harvest because the first frosts come early in October. On the other hand, above 15,000 feet, anything that can be irrigated grows much faster than at lower elevations. Since there are natural limits to the capacity of this irrigation system, the people here can only have enough to eat if the population remains constant. For thousands of years, Ladakh has achieved this balance through the monasteries and through fraternal polyandry. But for this social system to function, it requires a complex moral code which motivates people in all their actions. Without Buddhism, Ladakh's way of life could never have survived for thousands of years. The continuing presence of the Geshe has therefore an important function. His example motivates them to fight daily against the three poisons: greed, ignorance, and hatred. But is the reverence they feel for him based solely on his religious authority, or does he also have magical and mystical powers? Could the Geshe make it rain?
Yes, he could. But he only does it if it's absolutely necessary. He never uses his powers for black magic. He heals the sick through his blessing and through mantras. He has roads built to isolated monasteries, sees to it that they are kept up, and builds stupas all over the country.
The Geshe is a good man, just like an amchi or nature healer. He heals sick people.
The mayor said,
He is the head of the village. He prays for us and gives us a religious spirit. It's very difficult to find someone like him.
He's nice, very nice.
The Geshe is as impulsive as a child. Sometimes he's very quick-tempered, but if you ask him for something in a friendly way, you get it immediately. He's very important for our village.
We believe in him and trust him. We want him to stay here forever.
He has magical powers, but he doesn't use them because he lives the life of a pious hermit. He has an enormous knowledge of religion, and he's also very clever. He can make gold, real gold.
He can move the clouds.
Is it true that he can make gold?
Yes, it's true. You'll have to go and ask him yourself. He'll tell you how he makes gold. I know that he's already made a lot. If we asked him, he'd make some for us too.
The Geshe gets up while it's still dark and prays until the sun rises. Whoever wants to make a friendly visit to the Geshe, to be healed or to ask for advice, does so on a yak, as there's no other way. His gold production is also no secret.
Unfortunately, this didn't turn out quite so well. If it's a good batch, it looks like this. I made it too quickly this time.
I don't know how he does it. Who are we to say what goes on up there? Does he do it with mantras or prayers? Does he have some special technique? Or is it just luck?
Wangchuk wants to visit a person who knows about the Mokading magic. This man is supposed to have been thrown out of the monastery because of sinful practices. Now he works as a physician and astrologer. He's rarely at home.
The first thing we need is the hour of her birth, and then a ring or some other personal possession of hers.
Good. But will she come then?
It's possible.
Will she like me? What else do I have to do?
Hang a rope over your roof with flags in 5 colors. Search in the river for 9 black and 9 white stones. Learn the mantric formulas which I give you and repeat them to a torna which has a name in it. With what we know about her now, we can determine her character and decide which formula will be most effective. Here you have your talisman. You have to keep this with you, always. Now we can begin with the test. When her ring jumps onto your finger, then the chances are good. The rabbit shows the direction from which you should approach the ring with your right hand. It could take 3 days until she comes. What I did here was not good, but I wanted to help him, and besides, it worked. But this knowledge is secret and remains secret. There are many powerful formulas such as this, but they are rarely used. We also use talismans, which have very strong powers.
How did you get this knowledge? We've heard that anyone who gains such knowledge has to spend 500 years in hell.
My family has known the Mokading for 6 generations now. The knowledge was passed on to me by my uncle. If I didn't practice it now and then, the knowledge would be lost, because I'm the only one who can still do it.
Hello.
Greetings, my son.
How's business?
I don't make much with apples and apricots anymore. The soldiers trade less and less. They'd rather pay in cash.
Didn't you used to get a can of petrol for 3 packages of apricots?
Now they even dilute the petrol with water. 20 years ago, when I was in the army, the Indians only had 50 soldiers here. Now there are 20,000. They sell their surplus so cheaply that I can't do any business.
How are things otherwise?
Well, things have been better. I'm getting old.
Is my sister here?
Go on in. She's just saying her morning prayers.
Om Bazar Pumia, Hum, Chansagi Saji, Om Bazar Kia, Chichandi Koryuki Kore Usuri, Galpori Rabsha, Lusbako, Lo Zambuli, No Palancho, Lusang Lusbo, Hayatan.
Wanchok's sister is a nun. She lives mostly at home. The rule of her convent allows her to live with her parents and work as long as she promises to keep all 353 rules of conduct. She also has to say prayers at the appointed times, carry out rituals conscientiously, as well as work with modesty and humility in the service of all sentient beings. Any form of self-interest is forbidden.
This is my home. I have 4 brothers and sisters. Wanchok is the oldest. Ever since I was small, I had a strong interest in religious matters and admired the nuns. That's why I never thought of marrying. I became a nun at 14. When I was 21, I took the Getsul vows with the abbot of the Rizong monastery. It was my own wish as well as that of my parents. In the winter, I do the Chaspo meditation in the convent. That means 16 days of fasting and 8 days of silence. In the summer, we only do the Chaspo meditation for a week because there is so much work to do.
Good.
This practice is to prevent my being reborn as an animal. I would like to be reborn on a higher level as a man.
Do you believe that you can influence that?
We learn a great deal about that from the wise lamas. They show us what we should do.
Have you ever regretted becoming a nun?
Not up to now, because this way I can not only improve my reincarnation, but also take care of my parents until they die. I could only do that as a nun.
Her family, the Fargos.
I have to talk to you. Something terrible. A bad kind of magic. Can you help me?
Why do you do things like that? You bring shame on the whole family.
I want to make up for it.
You have to stay at home and do your duty as the oldest.
But even if I go away, I always come back. I see what a mistake it was to go away. Now I'll stay here.
In the future, you have to ask me before you go away.
Can't you pray for me?
I'll ask for help at the monastery.
She asks her abbot at the Rizong monastery.
I'd like to ask you to send some lamas to our house. There should be a purification ceremony because my family has been made unclean through the use of magic.
I'll send the monks to you. You can talk with them about it.
The father of Choron is sitting in the bus. He's making a journey to the monastery at Tikse. Down in the Indus Valley, Wangchuk's father, Fargo, also gets on. He too is going to Tikse. They're both acquainted with each other, but have no idea what has happened between their children since the harvest at Temiskam.
I still feel pretty good.
See how far you can throw this stone.
Things used to be different. I could throw stones this big. But now I'm 78, you know, and can't do much anymore.
I really ought to be stronger than you, because I'm 6 years younger.
You used to eat a lot of meat, didn't you? That's why you're so strong.
Not at all. We were very poor when I was young. I had to work hard even as a child, and went to bed hungry often enough.
This water is really good. Just try it once. Do you know where the water comes from?
From the mountain called the Lion's Mouth.
It comes from the god of the glaciers. It's a wonderful and special gift. It strengthens our religious belief.
Yes. If you study the writings of Buddha, you know a great deal.
Oh, of course. His writings even tell how aeroplanes and motors are built. Religion teaches a lot about mechanical things. We have the god of the glaciers to thank for all that.
We couldn't live without the Indus. It's the source of all power and strength.
Let's get moving. We've got quite a way to go yet.
Straga has long since handed over things to his heirs, but Fargo still runs his farm himself because Wangchuk hasn't taken up his inheritance yet. This will only change when Wangchuk marries. As they wander among the oldest stupas of Ladakh, it occurs to them that Straga's daughter Choron might be a possibility, regretting not having arranged the marriage of Choron and Wangchuk as children, as they did with the others. The monastery of Tikse appears before the two old men. The Rakdung horns announce the beginning of the festival. The pilgrims have reached their destination. No believer enters without spinning the prayer wheels, which contain strips of cloth on which are written hundreds of prayers. With each turn of the wheel, the prayers are spoken and their good effects multiplied. For the participants, this festival is more a chance for instruction than an expression of joy, though being present is a blessing in itself. A huge monastery like Tiktse, with over 1,000 monks, has the task of presenting their religion with over 100 deities and demons in such a way that every Tibetan Buddhist can understand it if he tries. A tanka is the symbol of a protective deity. Its exposure to view means that the deity itself is present. When the silk curtain is raised, the ceremonial dance can begin. Every detail of these masks, costumes, and objects are part of the expression and meaning of a deity personified. It is an exact, minutely set down sign language which the believers understand. Making these deities part of one's consciousness while one is still alive helps achieve peace of soul. Since man will be confronted with these powers at the very latest when he dies, a Buddhist believes that he should become acquainted with their powers and effects as early as possible. Here, someone has died. An old farmer from Temiskamp. His family carries the body to the coffin, in which he will be cremated. The children are intended to watch, so that they become conscious of the wheel of life. Buddha says that man's original essence and goal is awakened through the spiritual life. Therefore, despite the pain that everyone feels at the loss of a loved one, death is not something to be repressed and forgotten. Our material, bodily presence on earth is to be used to become aware of this spiritual world and be one with it, thereby destroying the power of the ego and the fear of death. The black hat dancer performs in order to defend these teachings. The old people have great respect for him. He can only be represented by a Lama who himself has become one with this awakened principle. Various offerings are blessed by the monks in order to feed the fire, because the burning of the body is also the deliverance of the soul. Wise and compassionate lamas can use certain mantras to guide the soul on its way to the next reincarnation. Those who in their lifetimes try to liberate themselves from the illusions and desires of the ego can, at this moment, much more easily cut themselves adrift from the bonds of material things. Because this moment is not far off for the two old men, they have a special interest in going to Tikse. But there is another reason for the journey: to question this oracle. He is very famous and makes his appearance only once a year. He dances like a whirlwind through the halls and staircases of the monastery. The high point of his appearance is when he reaches the roof. He dances along the balustrade with complete self-assurance, and it is this very security which proves that he is in the power of a higher spirit which can speak through him. The oracle has already appeared at this festival 14 times. For a month in advance, the lamas prepare him for it by means of meditation and a strict diet. Both he and the oracle of Temiscam are simple, very gentle and humble men who accept their special role as the most normal thing in the world. It is said that an ancient queen of Ladakh takes possession of him when he falls into a trance, but all he can say afterwards is that he feels very tired. The festival is over. It's the beginning of October and the short autumn will soon be gone as well. Last night saw the first frost, and as usual the two old men spent the night in the open air. The instruction they received has given them something to think about, and perhaps they've become a bit wiser. 8 months of a harsh winter are almost upon them. A long time to search one's conscience and experience unity with both the spiritual and the natural world.